the secretary has got a conflict that, he knows you're secretary now, you really got a lot of meetings, and we're really fortunate to have him this morning. We thought that we were going to have a late minute council on this deal, so we're going to get into it and get as much information from Tim as we can, and then we're going to give him some immunity, and he's going to pedal to his next meeting very quickly. But again, on behalf of the board, the ACCO board, and the various boards that we have within ACCO, we appreciate everybody's attendance here this morning. We've got quite an honor in the sense that, you know, you have a lot of people that you know that really succeed in the field that they're in, and you know, they achieve high pedestals as far as the business that we're in, but very seldom do you have a really good friend get to the point where we are this morning. We couldn't have asked on behalf of county transportation to have a better advocate for county transportation than Tim Gatz. I'm going to ask Tim to give his bio in short form in just a moment, but Tim has actually worked in the trenches, and as a friend of ours says, he's rode the rapids and he's rode the roads, and he knows the ups and downs of transportation. But he's been to D.C. as an advocate with ACCO, and when they made the announcement virtually, it was probably one of the highlights of what we've had for maybe some dark 2 or 3 years. But with that, I'd like to introduce our brand new governor appointed Secretary of Transportation and Director of Transportation, and still the head of the Turnpike Authority. So with that, I mean, someone who comes with a tremendous amount of credibility, tremendous amount of experience, and again, a true friend. So with that, Tim, if you just open it up very, very quickly for you to give a little bios to where you came from and how we got to where we are here this morning.
Gene, first and foremost, I want to tell you and ACCO and all the commissioners in the room and how much I really, really appreciate the invitation to come sit down and visit with you this morning. That means a lot to me to be back with this group and to have the opportunity to sit here in front of you and visit a little bit. So thank you very much for that. I know most of the folks in the room, worked with many of you on many, many different occasions, and you know, if you want to talk about my career, that's been the highlight of a lot of it. The ability to work with county commissioners in your capacity, and at the end of the day feel like I might have been a little bit of assistance in helping you try to get something done out on your roads that you're responsible for. But I started with the Department of Transportation after graduating from Oklahoma State University. Go Pokes, thank you. In 1990, and started out in a design squad. And I think when I walked in the door, they handed me a piece of vellum paper and an ink pen and a triangle and a T-square and said, we're getting ready to draw some highway plans. So, but that's where I got my start, and I worked my way into really managing programs. And early in my career, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of local government entities. Had the opportunity to work with some county commissioners on getting different types of projects done. Certainly enjoyed that, and over the course of my time with ODOT, spent 26 years with the Department of Transportation, had many occasions to become more involved with county government and advocate for county government at every opportunity, because I have a good understanding of the challenges that you face every day. The challenges of a county commissioner go far beyond the challenges that we see out on the road system every day. So again, with the advent of the CIRB program, I think that was really a highlight for county government, and I was actively involved whenever that program was in its infancy, and again, we tried to shape that as best we could. Went to the Turnpike Authority starting out in 2016 and have been there for the last 3 years. Continued some work with a lot of county governments. We've got some work going on right now with our big Driving Forward initiative. Got a lot of county roads that were impacted, a lot of county bridges over and Turnpike over. So have continued that relationship, and again, I really value that above all else. You guys as elected officials and gals are faced with challenges every day, and again, I do my best to keep that in the front of my mind in our daily activities, because we're all in this together, and it's really, really important that we work together.
Well, Tim, I think that you mentioned the SERB program, which is really a linchpin program for our capital improvements out in the counties. And the plan, the program was designed to do those exceptional projects that the counties would never be able to accumulate the money to do. We built almost $900 billion worth of projects while you've been engaged in it. If you would, for a moment, just take a short time to talk about what's your perception of the SERB its progress, its success, any shortcomings that you might identify this morning?
I think when you look at the CIRB program, there's been a tremendous amount of good work accomplished out there. I don't know, quite frankly, and not speaking on behalf of any of the commissioners, but I don't know what we would have done without it. We've made a lot of good progress across the state, and I spend a little bit of time, as you might imagine, traveling around the state, and you can pick a CIRB project out pretty easy because they're usually big bridges, they're usually the higher volume county roads. They're, again, you can pick them out pretty easy, and it's very satisfying to see those investments, to know that it's unlikely that work would have been able to be accomplished without that partnership that the state has with county commissioners.
Well, a couple of the myths, especially for our newer commissioners that we have here today, and we have a lot of them, and we had like 52 new commissioners come in this last election cycle. There's several myths involving in the SERB program on ODOT's engagement in the projects, and is there a cost involved for ODOT to be involved in it, and what flexibility counties have in the ODOT projects. So first of all, let's kind of dispel the first myth. Does ODOT charge any administration cost whatsoever for the actual assisting and letting and design up to that point?
The department does not charge an administrative fee at all for getting a CIRB project prepared and ready. Again, we've got responsibility for both the CIRB and the STP program. And again, we administer those as part of the statutory charge that we have to direct those programs, but we do that at no cost to county government.
And there's another myth in the fact that the CEDs would have the flexibility to do inspection on some of the projects. And is that permissible or not within the CIRB program?
The circuit engineering districts, we interact very closely with the circuit engineering districts, and they do have the flexibility to perform construction management and construction inspection services. If you look at how the department delivers projects, and not just CIRB projects, but all projects, there is a very careful structure that's been developed over time to make sure that the work that we're doing yields a quality end product. That really starts with the design. So we put together a good, solid engineering plan set. We go through a independent competitive bidding process where we obtain a good contractor, and then we go through construction management where we do quality control and quality assurance. each step in that process builds upon the other. And the end result is the best project that we can have out there on the county road system. On the construction management side of it, just as on the design engineering side, we are looking for folks that are experienced, folks that can produce a good set of engineering plans and perform good construction management services. In order to make sure that that's happening, there are certification processes that you've got to go through to be able to perform those construction management services, and that's just inherent in our process. But we do have the flexibility to work with circuit engineering districts in that capacity, and I think we try to at every opportunity. And that's one thing I'll emphasize about the CIRB program is, and Gene and many of the commissioners here were in office when the program was created. And I'll tell you that during the establishment years of the CIRB program, we tried to create, sometimes to a fault, we tried to create a process that was flexible, that offered the county commissioners the opportunity to engage and deliver projects, that offered the circuit engineering districts the maximum opportunities to participate in that however they saw fit. And we've got a lot of different models out there in the circuit engineering districts, from utilizing consultant services to do project delivery, project development, to having their own staff do it. So we've tried to create a program that's flexible enough to meet the needs of all different types of circuit engineering districts, the needs of all different types of commissioners. And again, sometimes that hadn't worked out so well, because there's a lot of moving parts in that process. Sometimes there's confusion, not just among the county commissioners, sometimes there's confusion at the department. Most importantly, the motivation that we had going into the CIRB program is still the same today. We've got a responsibility to work with the commissioners, work together. If we've got confusion and misunderstanding, we've got to get around that and clear it up and continue to make good progress on the projects. But again, flexibility is inherent in that program, and it was created like that for a reason, because the county commissioners mandated that of us. Give as much flexibility as we can.
Well, you know, I think that there isn't a commissioner that has not been engaged in one of the SERB projects that wasn't frustrated at the end on the time it took, from the time that, and a lot of it was accumulating the dollars from when we started, especially for very large projects. But I know Randy and I and some others had meetings very, very early with Shannon and group about how can we expedite, and what I guess this morning is that as the new secretary, you're going to have more engagement in policy. We'd like to commit ourselves and the CETs across the state that if we can find any way to expedite these projects, it's something I think is a worthy pursuit for all of us, because they just linger and linger and are so frustrating to get there. So, and I know you have been involved in it since the genesis of the program. And with that, I think that that's something that you're really going to be, you can be extremely helpful to us on making recommendations. You know, as the new secretary, I know you just got your feet on the ground, and we talked privately before we started this morning about if anybody had even suggested this to him 6-8 weeks ago, he'd have thought they were insane and out of their mind. But I do think it shows a tremendous amount of judgment on behalf of the governor to find people like you. And everybody in this room shares the optimism that we all do want to be a top 10 state. From your perspective, in your experience with ODOT, and now your short tenure with the governor, look into your crystal ball and kind of share with us on where you think county transportation will be and the direction it's going. And I know crystal balls get cloudy sometimes, but with 3 weeks on the job, you ought to have a real clear one at this point.
Well, Gene, first and foremost, I want to tell you I couldn't be more honored to be part of Governor Stitt's cabinet. He is going to take government in directions that we've never gone before. He's going to challenge us to be innovative. He's going to, and here's a word that everybody in this room will like, he's going to challenge us to be more efficient. He's going to challenge us to make good decisions, and he's going to challenge us to be a top 10 state. Now that means a lot of things to a lot of people, because I'll tell you, we're a top 10 state right now in energy production. We're a top 10 state right now in agriculture production. Those services use the county road system intensively, and as such, I think it's safe to say that the governor recognizes that. He's a businessman. He understands the infrastructure needs out there and what it's going to take to support Oklahoma now and into the future. So I think you can count on him being an advocate for infrastructure of all types. And, you know, again, I'm just excited about the opportunity to participate in shaping what our government's going to look like and working with you as elected officials at the county level to find ways to make our processes better, make our projects better, and to be better at working together. Because rarely do I, and Gene, the message that you just said about county and state coming together, committing to working together, I heard that loud and clear immediately. So we're going to work towards that. But I think when you boil it down to most all problems that we have are a failure to communicate. And you know, we're just going to have to get better at that. We're going to have to work closer together. We're going to have to open up some new lines of communication, some new ways of thinking. And again, the governor has firmly pointed us in that direction. So we know what we're charged with. And I'm really, really looking forward to getting about the business of trying to make a difference quickly. So,
well, you know, many of them in the room here had the opportunity to attend the Trust Day at the Capitol, and as a product of being there, we had virtually the entire leadership of the House, and the entire leadership in the Senate, and then the governor came in, and I think that everybody came away with the same message. They were really enthusiastic in the fact that you forget about the past and you're driving forward, and that message came through loud and clear. The other message that came through loud and clear was on behalf of leadership of the House and the Senate, knowing fully, you know, they're fully acknowledging the fact that we've had major dollars diverted from not only the Department of Transportation dollars, but from our SERB program. And they all in unison talked about acknowledging that and trying to find a way to put our plan back in sync. Randy did some numbers the other day, and I think we got 41 projects that are sitting on the shelf that could be out and could be let, producing jobs and improving the counties across there. The governor seems to be really data-driven. What can we do to assist you in being able to provide him more data and better quality information so he can feel as good about transportation as we all do?
And Gene, again, I think it turns back to that communication word. And I've observed ACCO and their engagement with the county commissioners over the last 10 years. The data that you compile, the reports that you put out are far better than I've ever seen before. So the information exchange there is really, really important, but we're never good enough. That's got to be a process of continuous improvement. Again, we've got to make sure that the citizens of Oklahoma and your constituents understand the conditional challenges that you've got out there on your roads, They need to understand what you're thinking and what we're thinking and how we're going to attack it. And again, Gene, that's data-driven. That should guide our decision-making process. And again, we've made tremendous progress in that arena, but we've got to continue to really stay focused on it. Something as simple as having bridge numbers. I'm telling you, you know, that hadn't always been easy to understand how many bridges we've touched, you know, over the last 10-year period. We're a whole lot better at that now. We can talk about the accomplishments that we've made and the investments that we've made. And again, I think that that's extremely helpful in that conversation when it comes to here's what we're accomplishing, here's what our plan is, and here's why the revenues that are coming to us are so important.
Well, you know, we're going to make a commitment as a group and on behalf of our boards. You have an open invitation for every conference we have. And we would love to have regularly scheduled, whether it's your new chief engineer or anybody that you think that can provide us quality information. And very candidly, nudge us along. I mean, we want everybody in the room to acknowledge that these are our projects and we own them, and we're going to shepherd them through from point A to Z. And I know that you'll do that. In summary, I know that you have got to get back to Capitol, but do you have just a few words to wrap up with the group this morning?
I'd tell you again how much I appreciate the county commissioners, the association, for everything that you do. Again, you've not got an easy job. County government is extremely important to the state of Oklahoma, and you as an elected official, accept my thanks, please, for everything that you do and for your willingness to step up and take on that responsibility and that role and that job. Because without you, I don't know what we do. So thank you for that. I want you to know, and the commissioners that I've worked with before will tell you that I'm pretty accessible. If you've got issues, if you've got problems that I need to know about, that we need to talk about, Gene, to echo your point, we're going to work together to solve problems. You know, we've got too many problem identifiers around us every day, it seems like. We need problem solvers, and we're going to get about the business of solving problems, and I look forward to working with you in that capacity, and you've got my commitment to do that. Well,
Mr. Secretary, we film this, and we share this on our website, and we stream it across the state. And, you know, we're doing everything we can to improve communication, but we are so appreciative. For many of you don't know, when we scheduled this initially, he didn't know that he was going to have these demands, but he actually squeezed us in. And I'm so grateful for the fact he did that. And we made a commitment to get him out and get him on the road. So I'm going to say one last thing, though. I want to raise my right hand. Everybody raise their right hand. By the power invested in us as the Board of County Commissioners across the state of Oklahoma, you have total speed immunity on the state highways and the turnpikes all the way to wherever you're going to go. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Godspeed, Tim. Thank you. If you guys will just wait a second, not to fill time, but I want to give you a little briefing. I was on a conference call this morning with Mike Turpin, of all people, and you can imagine how hard that was to get loose. But man, I just have to tell you one more thing, you know, and it just kept going. If many of you have read the paper or seen the news alerts, the Attorney General for the state of Oklahoma yesterday came to a settlement here in this county involving a lawsuit involving opioids. Now, many of us in the room have, and I know your counties have entered into a contract with legal counsel on dealing with some of these lawsuits. This was one company that they came into as a product of settlement. And they settled yesterday for $270 million. Now, I don't know who developed the formula, but the formula was developed. They were going to give $200 million to a opioid research center with the OSU School of Medicine out of Tulsa. But the 5% represents about $13.5 million that they want to divide up among cities and counties across the state of Oklahoma. The Attorney General has appointed Mike Turpin to kind of serve on a committee, and Mike was talking to me about what the possibilities of developing formulas were. So we talked about multiple different things. But it's still early, irregardless of what you think or you may hear, how these settlement terms are going to come down. If we look at the format they used with the tobacco settlement, they took those dollars and they put them into the county health departments. I explained to him that not every county has a county health department, so that may not work in our settlement. So we want to stay tuned because there's going to be a lot more information come out. But I stress to you, if you've got litigation and litigants engaged in your county, the lawsuits against these other companies are still active lawsuits. And so they estimated this morning, as we're in the conference call, the final settlements between all these producers of OxyContin across the state and other drugs could reach up to $2 billion, which is a tremendous amount of money. Now, the big fear is these companies, as maybe they get judgments against them, or if they get settlement agreements, they'll just simply file bankruptcy and go away. And you know, that's kind of what happens in some of these huge lawsuits. But right now, based on the conversation we had this morning, all counties, regardless of whether you've got legal counsel engaged in your county or not, you're still in the pool for this $13.5 million settlement. That looked like a huge number to them when we started the conversation, but as I broke the numbers down, that isn't a lot of money per county or city or town issue out there. So, it's a developing story, and it's one that we really won't know until we get further down the road as to where we're going to do this and how we're going to divide it up, where the money would go. When we made the first phone call, I called Mike Hunter about 2 years ago, and when they were talking about filing these lawsuits, and I said, the biggest entity out there that has the most loss of direct impact on opioids are counties. And he really didn't understand that very well, but as he got to understand that we provide the incarceration, in many cases we provide the health care through a county hospital, we provide the EMSs, we provide the sheriff's department that makes the runs. We provide so many services to our residents out there that all of a sudden it did dawn on him that the counties really and truly are huge stakeholders in recovery of cost. Because as they move down the road with these other lawsuits, proving loss is a big thing. And as we talked before I go about data, we've got the data that we can drive on how big the losses are for the counties out there. The state probably did lose money in incarceration at DOC, but we've dealt with all those people long before they ever saw them. And so, I'm encouraged by the fact that one company folded and came to an agreement, and hopefully we will get down the road and get far more money put in the settlement pot. But then it's going to be deciding on how to divide it up and where the money actually will go. And right now that's just totally undetermined. So anyway, we're so appreciative that Secretary Gatz really changed his schedule in order to do this. When we explained to him that we had him in the agenda, they offered a lot of names out of the Department of Transportation to be here this morning, but without a doubt, he was the guy that we wanted. And for many of you that have worked with him, I cannot stress enough, this is the guy that we absolutely had to have at ODOT for county. So with that, enjoy the rest of your morning. We could have, Randy and I talked about we could brought somebody else in for another 20 or 30 minutes, but I think we got the guy we wanted. So thank you for coming and enjoy your morning.